Kate Millipal. Welcome to Irish Granny Tarot. I'm laughing as I sit here and Nate insults his hostess. Okay, all right, Nate. What are we doing here besides laughing?
Well, you said we wanted to share a little bit of fun stuff, and for once, I've done my homework.
It's a miracle. What's happened? What happened? Is your dog at the vet?
No, I just reminded that I didn't want to look stupid during the show, so 10 minutes before I found a little story. Isn't that what the good student does? Is just, looks like they prepared, but it's been done 10 minutes
Yeah.
before?
Oh, yeah. There's a big difference between stupid and just lazy. It haunts me if I don't do it. I can't. It nags at me. That's because I was a big. I was going to say butt kisser. Can I say that here? I don't know.
Yes.
In
Well, be
school,
careful. Yeah, you don't want to be in trouble.
too late. Okay, so let's get going here. This is our funny little things from the news, and I think because you have one, you should go first.
Oh, okay. So this is a little story about the habits. I was actually researching habits and routines of people. I'm just kind
Huh?
of fascinated by that. Yes.
Oh,
I was trying to look at a general topic of habits and routines because that relates to all of us. So that's not what I want to talk about, but I found a habit or routine of article, and I actually connected with the first one. So maybe I'll start with that first. It will be quick. Something that I actually do. So when you have a plate, it's lunchtime or dinner time or even breakfast. There's a habit that certain people have, and they have multiple types of different types of food on their plate. And there's a habit that certain people have that they leave what they like the best for the end.
oh yes,
Do you do
yes.
that? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
do that.
comes from childhood, I think.
I do that.
You know why you do it. When you were a
No,
child, your parents made you eat your vegetables. Eat the things that are good for you, and so you try to get it over with so you could enjoy what you liked. That's what
mhm,
I think, anyway. I always leave the best to last.
I see.
Always. Yeah.
All right. So talking about habits, I went into look into the habits from Jeanne Calment. She was a French person, and to date, she's been known as the world's oldest person.
Oh, right.
And she lived until 122 years old.
Oh,
And it's been explained what is her routine that kept her going so well, and for Jeanne, a very, as you can imagine, a very strict routine. So, she requested to be woken up at 6:45 a.m. every single day. 6:45. Already, I would have trouble with that. Each day,
oh, I thought you
by
meant PM.
each day by a nursing home staff, and she began her mornings with a prayer.
Oh, well.
She would sit in her armchair. She would do some light exercises for her arms, her legs, and she would use a stereo headset with some music while she would as lifting her arms and everything. Her routine included stretching, flexing her hands and her legs. For breakfast, she typically had coffee with milk and some bread. She washed herself independently using a flannel cloth rather than taking a shower because she was doing it herself. After breakfast, she cleaned her own breakfast dishes and she would head to lunch.
It took her until lunchtime to get.
She had a preference for braised beef and she didn't really like boiled fish. She enjoyed dessert with every meal and often remarked that she would prefer fried or spicy foods over the plain options that the home was providing. She made her own fruit salad daily, usually with banana and oranges. And she had a particular fondness for chocolate, sometimes consuming up to 2 pounds a week.
Oh, now that's my kind of woman.
It gets better.
Okay.
Follow, following her meal, she would have a glass of port wine, and of course, she would smoke a cigarette. In the afternoon, she took a 2 hour nap in her armchair before visiting her neighbors in the care home to share the latest news of the world that she would have heard on the radio. In the evenings, she ate a quick dinner, returned to her room, and listened to music because her eyesight made it difficult to read. I can only imagine. And of course, she would end her day going to bed around 10 p.m. with her last cigarette for the day.
Well,
That was the Jean Calment routine in France.
you can laugh, but she has the formula right there for longevity, which is, in a nutshell, DNA.
Don't care.
Well, you're born with an
Yes.
expiration date. I truly believe that. You can hasten it to a certain extent, but if you're trying to increase longevity, you better hope your grandparents and your great grandparents were very old when they
Yes.
died, because that's, I think, the most essential. My grandmother smoked like a chimney. All of my relatives smoke like chimneys. My grandmother lit her cigarettes one from the other. She always had a cigarette in the corner of her mouth. She also swore like a sailor, but that's a different thing. She ate, her idea of a well rounded meal was strong tea with milk and sugar
Mhm.
and cookies. None of this, high vegetable, low carbohydrate nonsense for her. No.
It
And
was. I thought that was pretty cool what her routine was.
interesting that she adhered to this sort of strict thing, but it gives you a sense of purpose, right?
Hmm.
And that matters. I don't know. I think it'd be a little boring, but maybe when you're, what was she, 123?
22.
122 years old. Dear God. So did she just die?
A couple years ago.
So she was born at the turn of the last century, like
Obviously. Yeah.
1890s or the
Yes.
1900s. My own grandmother was born in, I think, 1898, 1897, something like that. So, ooh, that's kind of scary to think about where that puts me in the hierarchy of old age. That starting to clear out up there. I'm getting to the top of the on the list of old
I
people.
mean, can you imagine when you reach 100, you still have 22 years?
I think it would matter your state of health, your clarity of mind, and whether or not your life provided you with the kind of things that matter to you. Like, she had care, she was
Hmm.
cared for.
Yep.
She had access to things she enjoyed, like music and chocolate and a routine and cigarettes. If all your needs like that are met, you could be content. Your
Hmm.
needs seem to condense as you get older. I don't need anywhere near the kind of entertainment and stimulation of going and doing that my adult children need. They can't believe you guys are so boring. Well,
Yep. Anyways, I thought that was kind of fun.
that's fascinating. Yeah, fascinating. So, do you, based on that, and based on my opinion, uh, would you predict your longevity?
I don't think it's going to be very long.
Well, that's sad for the rest of
Well,
us.
but I mean, it's not something that would worry me. Like, I mean, we know we cross over and there's another experience after. So for me, I see it from that standpoint.
We're not supposed to be so attached to physical reality that it causes us enormous angst or fear or whatever, because we're supposed to recognize that we are not our bodies. That's the
Hmm.
big challenge. Fear of death is the inability to really fully digest that concept.
Exactly. And I feel like, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Actually, to answer your question, I feel it doesn't really matter. I think the goal is to try to live as if it's your last moment. So you could live with intense energies and presence.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
how
a
I feel.
challenge. I mean, that theoretically, I 100% agree with you. In practice, that can be really difficult for a lot of us. I mean, we try.
But the way that to me, like I integrate this in my choices, it's more actually in my life, it's more in my choices. So, for example, when you face a choice, any choice, should I do this or should I do that? I always consciously pick the choice that, well, life is to be enjoyed and I want to get the best of it and I would rather pick this choice. Of course, we have constraints, financial constraints, physical constraints, all kinds of constraints. But within those constraints, I would take the more intense choice, the one that would bring the most life.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. I think the challenge for me is to reach that point to be able to make that choice, because I tend to be emotionally reactive to things. So something happens, I'm immediately mad or
Hmm.
sad or whatever. And it takes me some time to come to peace with it. I have to sit with it a while and process it. And by a while, I mean years. No, I have to really, okay, where do I, what's really important here? It takes me a while to work through all that. I would say it's because I'm a Taurus, but that's not a good excuse because so are you. So,
Well, I think it's just, it's like it's funny we're talking about habits, but this is actually a habit. For
yes,
me,
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
When I'm consciously making those decisions, I mean, I think it's like making really conscious decisions.
Decisions, living
And
consciously.
it's like it's not the decision itself, it's the thought process by which you make the
Right.
decision. It's not or bad or good decisions. I think,
No.
have you really thought it through? Have you
Right.
really like, and yeah, I think that's like the most important at making those decisions.
Well, that actually is the big lesson that I've been trying to work on, is when something happens, good or bad, to take a step back and just take a breath and think, okay, this is identify the emotion involved, and then ask yourself, does it matter? Am I overreacting, underreacting? Is there a different way of looking at this? And how should you proceed? Obviously, when you get to be about 122, you've probably gone through that process and not a whole lot bothers you anymore. You've seen it
No,
all, right?
no.
Yeah. As long as you have your chocolate, what do you care? Your chocolate and your Winston.
And your port wine.
Okay, want me to go? I
Yes,
like
of
that. I
course.
like that. That was excellent.
I don't
Um,
do my homework very often, but when I do it, it
A
is
plus,
usually good. Yeah.
A plus,
Thank you.
yeah. Uh, so I think I'll start this little story out with the words that were used in the story that I read, because they were intentional puns and I thought they were really funny. Let's see if you can guess what I'm talking about. Slicing through the science, cutting edge, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Okay. February 24th was International Sword Swallowers Day.
Oh my God.
And there was a convention of sword swallowers from all over the world. And it talked a little bit about, you wouldn't think it was a thing, right? For 4,000 years, sword swallowing has been a practice. It began in India. Um, the founder of this organization recently started the organization is called Dan Mayer, and he was recently given the Ig Nobel Prize. Ig Nobel, Ig Nobel Prize.
Ig, I
Uh,
didn't get that. Ig, what do you mean, ig?
okay, the word ignoble means kind of a dishonor, dishonorable. And then there's the Nobel Prize, which people often
Yes.
mispronounce, misspell. So it's a clever little pun, but
Oh,
if you have to explain it that much, I guess it's not that clever. I thought it was funny. Ig is the first word. Nobel is the second word. So the Ig Nobel Prize. He got it
I got
for
it now. I got it now.
the organization, and he specifically got it for medicine. I know. For sword swallowing as a practice has long been studied by doctors and research. And they've used it to help advance science. Because of sword swallowers, they were able to invent the endoscope, which is what they put down your throat into your digestive tract to look for problems. Thanks to sword swallowers directly, they credit them for helping to
Yep,
do
yep.
that.
I
They
could see that.
also were able to, the group itself supports esophageal cancer studies and centers. They have been instrumental, pardon the pun, in helping with swallowing disorders. And so they're recognized by the medical profession as actually a good thing for the medical profession. I thought that was so interesting. And they meet once a year to honor veteran sword swallowers, injured sword swallowers, and dead sword swallowers. And I don't think I want to find out what happened to them, but can you even watch a sword swallower?
I've seen. I've seen.
Does it give you the
Live,
willies?
live, in person. Yeah, that's, I mean, I go like this.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, I can't watch.
It's just too much. I don't understand why they do it. It's too much risks.
Some of them survive. I mean, they don't all die. It's terrible, but if there's a group of injured sword swallowers, that would make me think twice, right?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But imagine it, because of them, they invented the endoscope.
Yes. Yeah.
They came up with the whole field of endoscopy, the study of like what goes in your mouth and goes down into your stomach, that whole area that, you know, you can get a lot of
But I
problems
was
with.
wondering, sometimes the sword is not a metal sword. It's like a and then when they put it, kind of shrinks, and it's fake. It's like a magician.
Sometimes I don't think it always
Yes.
is.
Not always, but I think some are fake.
It reminds me of fire eaters.
Yeah,
That's another one that I
I
can't.
know.
Yeah. I'm not much into any kind of risk taking of any sort,
No, me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither.
I don't even like to watch, like baccarat and dice and stuff.
I'm clumsy, so if I touch, like for example, having two things in my hands, like one would be falling. It's just I'm very clumsy.
Yeah, I don't understand how people juggle and stuff.
Oh,
Remind me
juggle?
never.
No, I'm just taking like one mug in the right hand, another
Just
one.
in life,
It's just I don't even
like
do that well.
coffee and a croissant, you have to decide.
Oh, I think like for example, coffee, a croissant, and a keychain. I wouldn't know how to, like for example, uh, 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 a
Going to,
third object, it would
yeah.
panic me.
Doesn't take much, Nate. Remind me not to do any parachuting with you. I have a friend who almost died parachuting. His very
Wow.
first time he jumped out of an airplane, he got very lucky. His chute failed.
I hear that all the time.
his emergency chute did not work until almost it was too late. He was almost too close to the ground, but it did deploy. And he was so lucky because they went way off course, and he landed in honest to God, this is the truth, landed in a marsh, legs first, in the mucky marsh, broke both his legs,
Of course.
but survived. So that makes you really want to get into parachuting, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'll wait until I'm 122 years old,
No
like Jean
kidding. I
Calment.
think I could
I
die
know.
without ever doing that. So do you have another one?
No.
I have two. I have one very
I
overachiever.
I'm the
I have
student
one
who does the
really short one.
base
Pardon?
minimum, basic what's needed, and then nothing more.
Yeah.
The student that like,
A C is good enough. A C is a good enough grade. Who cares, right? Okay, so everybody thinks the eagle is the national bird of the United States. And until this last December, it was not. Biden passed a law or some decree or something that made the bald eagle the official bird. But since 1782, people have kind of regarded it as it. And there's this story that I used to tell as the truth. I thought it was the truth, that Benjamin Franklin wanted them to put the turkey as the national
oh
bird.
yes,
It's not true. He said that when they were talking about using the eagle as an emblem, he was critical of it. He said that this is how that rumor happened. This is a quote: "The eagle looks like a turkey, which is a much more respectable bird. The eagle is a lazy coward." And that's why people said that, but it's not true. So that's my story. Now I have one more story, which I thought was hilarious. This dog in Wisconsin called Little Murphy got his head stuck in a jar, a plastic jar, going after a milk bone, the last dog treat in the jar. He's a small dog, really cute, and he got his head stuck in the jar, and they couldn't get it off. They tried for over an hour. They just finally had to give up. They were afraid he was going to run out of oxygen. He was getting panicked, So they called the police. The police had to come in and help cut, because it was a weekend, of course, and the veterinarian was gone. So they also mention in this article about a coyote called Aldi Kai. They named him because they captured him. He was found hiding in a refrigerator in a grocery store. An Aldi. Somebody opened an Aldi in Chicago. Somebody opened the door of the grocery store. Apparently it sneaked in.
oh,
and was afraid of the traffic outside, somehow ended up in an urban area, afraid of the traffic, sneaked into the store, creeped into an open refrigerator case, the long rows, and was hiding in there. And finally they had to call animal control, and he
oh,
now is in a sanctuary, so he's fine. And then the other story, that's the only story. They figured that he was out of his usual territory because it was mating season, and coyotes, a little bit like dogs, they mark their territory for other male coyotes, and he just got lost and freaked out by traffic. So
oh,
how about that?
wow,
Interesting,
very
huh?
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I know those things happen. Animals come in and
yeah. we have
it's
we have raccoons.
yeah.
We have a multi-generational family of raccoons who's been coming and visiting our apple tree for 40 years. And it's the cutest thing you've ever seen. Late at night, you might look out the window and you'll see this mother raccoon with 5 or 6 little babies following along behind her. It's
Oh,
so cute. So cute. A lot of people
wow.
hate them, but I like them.
I hate them. Yeah, I like them. But I know
Well,
they can do a lot of damage. They can do a lot of damage.
raccoons are cousins to bears.
Yep.
And they're actually very, very dangerous. If you've ever
Yes.
seen one up close, which I have because it was eating my cat's food, gigantic claws,
Yeah.
scary claws, really scary. So on that happy note, we're going to leave everybody to think about that. That'll give you nightmares. What are we going to do next, Nate?
Well, I think you're inviting me for seconds.
Dessert.
And a port wine and a cigarette.
We'll say this. You can join us behind the paywall for a GT.
A gin tonic?
Thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to get out of here before it deteriorates any further. Song of Foil, come back and join us. Seriously, it'll be fun. Okay, bye. Oh, thank you, Nate.
Thank you.